request from followers on Instagram, subscribers here on YouTube, and from my private tuition students asking me to show how I install invisible zippers. So if you would like to know how I install invisible zippers, keep on watching this video. Hello, my name is Juliet Uzor of SoSoNatural.com, and if you are interested in creating your own clothes, owning your style and showcasing them for everyone to see, then this is the right channel for you. I have here a regular zip and I have an invisible zip. Invisible zip is what we're going to focus on, so we do not need this. Okay, so I have my little secret to share with you. The secret to installing my invisible zippers perfectly all the time without unpicking and redoing and trying again and again is something that I'm going to show you here. If you have a look here, you'll see that I have 5 different zipper feet. So these 5 were not bought at the same time. I have tried using every single one of them on invisible zippers, and I finally found the one that works for me, and I hope it works for you as well. This foot here comes with every sewing machine, I assume. Okay, so almost every sewing machine comes along with a foot that looks like this. So then this is the second one in my timeline. It does a good job, but it didn't work for me. Yeah, it didn't hit the spot. So I moved on to buying one of these, and it still didn't do the job. I think I bought this when I was in the process of finding this one here, but I'll show you in a minute. Then after that I bought this. This was the 4th in my timeline. Okay, this one here is much narrower than this one. Yeah, so this, I thought this would be fantastic for invisible zipper insertions, but it just didn't happen. This I use for exposed metallic zippers. It works a treat. And I use it for, I can't remember, I think it's for lapped zippers I use this one for. Now, this was my last bus stop. I'll show you the reason why this one's different. It has this groove in front of it, and that's how I managed to get my invisible zips to work first time, every time I sew them, and I insert them and I don't have to unpick and try again. So this here has a groove compared to this and this. Okay, this one has a groove in front of it, and that's what I use. That was my game changer. I will share the link with you in the box below, and I hope you'll be able to find yours. But if you do have this this zipper foot already in your stash and you haven't been using it, why? Tell me why in the comment section, and I would like to know why you haven't been using it, because it's been working a treat for me. Since we are on a secret spilling mission today, I'm going to share with you the very second thing that changed my invisible zipper insertion game. The secret to creating a perfect crisp invisible zipper at the back of your, well, on the back, at the back, side, front, wherever you want to insert your invisible zipper, is to interface that seam allowance where the zipper is going to go. Do not forget that, it's so important. It gives you a clean finish. So I'm going to make sure I cut out a strip of this interfacing, and I'm going to press them onto my fabric. So here's another tip for you. Isolate whichever part of your sewing project requires a zipper. Now, the purpose for saying this is it's much easier to tackle and maneuver around smaller pieces of your garment than the whole thing. Imagine if you had a whole dress to make, and the sewing pattern advises to, insert your pockets, insert your sleeves, and then at the end put your zipper. I tell you, it'll be much easier to construct the back of the pattern and then everything around it. If you've got a dress to make that has the bodice and the skirt separated, but you've got a long zipper to insert, another tip for you is attach the left bodice and skirt, attach them together, so you would have one long piece. Right bodice and skirt, sew them together with all the darts and everything done, and then you would have left back and right back. Insert the zipper before you attach everything else around it, because it's much easier to maneuver than having a whole bulky garment that you have to insert zippers to. that's something that I like to do, and I thought I would share that with you. Right, so the next step is to mark out the seam allowance so you would know exactly where the zipper teeth need to be. Okay, so because I remember the zipper teeth is right at the edge of the zipper. So I'm going to use a ruler and a pencil or a chalk, whatever it is that you like to work with, to mark out exactly where your zipper is going to go. At the early stages you need to do this, but as you get better and more experience with sewing, you'll be able to just eyeball it by using your measuring tape just to know where exactly it needs to start from. So with this sewing pattern, it's a 1 centimeter seam allowance for the zip. So I'm going to mark out 1 centimeter using my ruler. Some people like to baste it at this stage. So they use a sewing needle and thread, and they baste their actual zipper onto their fabric. But the better you get at sewing, you won't need to do this. Okay, all you need to do is to pin it. Okay, so here we have it. So we've got our 1 centimeter marked. So the next thing now to do is to move on to the sewing machine. Inserting invisible zippers. So I have my back piece like this. And I'm going to start with this end, because this is the side that this is the much more bulkier side. So I'm better off inserting this side, because this here would go on the side, the arm of the sewing machine, and you want to get this done first before you move on to this side. So I like to focus on this first before I focus on that. Using a medium heat iron, you just need to give it a bit of a press. You don't want it to be too hot, because if it's too hot, it could melt the zipper coil. The next step that I like to follow before I actually start to insert my invisible zipper is to finish the raw ends, okay? Because once you insert your zipper, it gets quite tricky finishing off the raw ends. But then if you do not have an overlocker or a serger, please do not stress yourself, because this tool does the job extremely well. It's a pair of pinking shears, and it just finishes the end of your the edge of your fabric. Please use whatever method works well for you for this step. So I have a question for you. What is your favorite method of finishing your clothes? Do you prefer using an overlocker, pinking shears? Some people even have rotary pinking shears. I would like to have one of those actually. Tell me what your favorite method of finishing the raw ends of your clothes in the comment section. Okay, so here I have my zipper tape. I have quite a bit of zipper tape right at the top of it after the stopper, this stopper here. Okay, so we have a plastic stopper that will stop the zip from flying off when we zip up the top. But then the facing of my neckline is going to be 1 centimeter. I don't want this to be more than 1 centimeter, so I'm going to cut off the excess of 1 centimeter. So after marking out 1 centimeter, I'm going to chop off the excess. Same thing on the other side. So I'm just going to line it up and have both of them the same. Turn this around. Have both stoppers lined up together, and then turn it around. Have them both at the exact same 1 centimeter. I'm going to identify how this is going to get inserted. So I definitely know that it's going to be facing up because it's the right side of the zipper, which means that I need to stitch it on this way. So when I have this stitched on this way, I can then open up this side of the zipper and pin this. But when I pin it, I need to make sure that the teeth of the zip is lined up exactly at my 1 centimeter seam allowance that was marked on the other side. So I'm pinning it exactly there. I don't want it, if I pin it over there, then the back of my top might be a bit too tight. And if I pin it that way, then it would be too loose. So you need to have it exactly where it's supposed to be. So I'm pinning this exactly at 1 centimeter, but I always have to turn around and check that the zipper teeth, the teeth of the zip is lined up exactly at 1 centimeter seam allowance. I'm pinning the side that has fabric that's going to sit in the arm of my sewing machine. I want to work on this first before I work on the other side. I'm inserting the pins facing up because when I put this into the sewing machine, it won't interfere with my sewing, so I can just pull this off as I go. So the pinning direction also matters. always start with a bit of thread at the back. You don't want a coil of thread at the end of your zip, so please remember to have your thread at the back. For the purpose of this video, I am using white thread just to show you, but under normal circumstances I would use the same color thread as my zipper tape so that it blends in nicely, because at the end of the day we want this to be an invisible zip, so everything about the zipper needs to remain invisible. If I do not have this section of the bodice going first, I would have a bit of problem trying to maneuver this section if I inserted the zipper on this section first. So please pin it onto the side of the fabric that goes in here, so you would have less fabric to deal with when you insert onto the other side. So I've pinned this onto the right hand side of my back bodice, and it's facing the right side up, and it also has the zipper tape facing upwards and the right side of the zipper facing the right side of the fabric, and it's pinned down.
Head on the water, just like I've seen you all the night.
Is right next to the zipper tape, the coil there is right next to it, which means that I have full control of my zipper tape and it's not going to move. This sits exactly in that hole. There's a hole there and there's a hole there, which means that this coil goes into that hole. When I'm working on the other side, the other coil will go into this hole, which means that I need to move my needle position when I get to that point. If the needle isn't where you want it to be, so I'm just going to move this down. I'm going to get my needle in, and I can see that my needle is right on top of my zipper coil. I do not want the zipper coil to get interfered with, so I'm going to move my needle position. So I need to move my needle position exactly where I want it to be, and I don't want it there. I want my needle to be right next to the coil. So now that it's right next to the coil, I can sew along, and this groove here guides it. I'm going to pull my pins out of the way as I go. You see the reason why we need to have this first. We need to work on this first because it goes underneath this arm of the sewing machine. And then I'm going to back stitch. And whilst I'm sewing, I'm making sure that the coil is nice and flat. Okay, so it will tell you when it gets to the end because it will not move any further. And it gets right to the end. And when it's right to the end, you just back stitch. I like to go back at least 4 times. And then I go forward and I go back again. I like to end when it's backwards. So now that this side has been dealt with, that side will be much easier to handle. Okay, so same thing. Close this, make sure you've got it the right way, then turn this over. When you turn it over, you need to make sure that it's lined up with the top of the, with the back in it to make sure you have it where you want it to be. Then open it. And then everything else takes place just like the other side. So it's pinned, and then you put it to you take it to the sewing machine, sew it up, and then we're going to have a look at how to finish off the bottom end of it.
Just like I've seen all the night into a silent world of love. As we grow older, the numbers will fade into time. Let's go for another lazy round.
So now we've got our zip inserted. Look! And you wouldn't even know that it's there. It's not there. I can't tell. Can you? There it is. No, it's not there. Now it's there. Now it's not there. The last step is to finish off this open part of your bodice. So what I do is I put them together, so nicely pinned together. So when I've got them together, I need to have them nicely like lined up. Yeah, this is the side that's gonna go into the sewing machine. I'm not gonna sew it along this side. I'm going to sew it along this side. So this side goes into the sewing machine. So I need to pin it along this side. So this is the left-hand side of my back bodice. So pin, but this time I'm going to pin it going across like this to have it nice and flat, especially at this point, the very end of the zipper. So I'm going to have this nice and flat. So when I pin it nice and flat, I'm going to make sure that this excess zipper tape is not hidden inside the seam allowance. I need to make sure it's nice and flat. So when I have it nice and flat, I can see exactly the end of I can see the very last stitch when I was doing the zipper insertion. So that's where my stitch is going to end, but just watch. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew into this very last stitch of the zipper tape. I'm not going to sew from there out, I'm going to sew into it. Okay, so bring back your regular zipper foot and move the needle position to make sure that it's not going to hit the zipper tape. Also bearing in mind your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So I just need to mark my 1 centimeter seam allowance to make sure that I'm in line. You should really go slow at this stage. Give it a nice press. If you got value from this video, please let me know in the comments section and hit the like button as well. It really does help me know what kind of videos you like. Also, if you are in the London area and you would prefer a private tuition with me, just hit the link in the description box below and we can get the ball rolling. It will take you directly to my website to find out more information about you, and we can get you started. However, if you would rather like a group workshop or a course with me, have a look in the description section. There's going to be a link that will take you to all the different classes that I've got, and I look forward to meeting you. If you are not in the London area and you just want to learn how to sew with me, do not worry, we've got something coming up for you. I hope to see you next time in my next video. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care. All the best.